Welcome back into the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick, and we got Sean and Harrison. How are we doing tonight, boys?
Good. Happy to see you
fellas.
guys.
How you doing?
Great. All right, so this week's a little bit different for our normal viewers. We usually go live, but we had to pre-record because, some people have like family time and stuff, which is cool, but it's the first time in a while we haven't been able to go live. But what the plan is I'm going to be on for comments and stuff, so I'll be able to comment while the video is posted Monday night at 8. So we're going to keep the same time, but I'll be on to comment and stuff and watch it with you guys if you would like to join us. Which you'll be watching it now, so I don't know why I gave you the heads up. But anyways, moving on. Like us, follow us, and subscribe. Please share our page, comment, and interact as much as you can.
Yeah, so this video is going to pop up and look like it's live, but it's not actually live. Nick will just be like creeping around in the comments, chatting with you.
Yes, thank you. You explained that way more better than I did. I appreciate the assist there. Speaking of assists, we're going to talk about...
Look at the segue.
Good segue.
Yeah. We are going to talk about our best assist of all time. There's so many out there. There was one that I thought about that was an infield assist, but I'll talk about that one after. Because when you think of assist, you think of outfield assist. You think of these big arms just hosing people out. So we have our picks picked up and queued up. So let's start with Harrison or Sean.
Yeah, so I just queued up. I queued up mine. So I'll run this one real quick. So I picked Vlad Guerrero, who may have one of the best outfield arms ever, and was somebody that we were talking about before we started recording. It was the one player that people would go to batting practice not to watch him hit, but to watch him throw. So this play is just insane in Toronto.
Here's the pitch. There's a swing, and that is gapped into right center field. Over to cut it off is Guerrero. Here comes the throw in, and Castillo slides. He's out at the plate.
And I'm going to show you a different angle where basically Vlad almost pauses, gathers himself, lets the guy get started, and then throws.
Try to hit it with his hand, but that's a pretty good
almost accepting the challenge of having to go get him.
Vladimir Guerrero, and he had him dead to rights.
Yeah, more like a cannon, to tell you the truth. He ended up picking up that ball
get himself together.
High hop. I was just getting ready to say that throw's a little bit too high. He threw the ball
that's a strike
on the fly to home plate
to get him
to get the sliding Castillo. Actually, got him by plenty. No chance.
No chance.
And the scary thing was that was not the only time he made a play like that. He's made many throws like that, but that was the one I always think of when I think of some of the best throws I've seen.
And those are still unquestionably top 5 uniform in the history of baseball. Those Expo road uniforms, so nice. So nice.
I mean, the ball was hit to right field, and you were dumb if you ran on that guy. I mean, if you didn't go station to station, like your base coach should be fired immediately. Crazy.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think the situation in the game, may have called you got to be a little bit aggressive, maybe. I don't know, but that's not the guy. I know. I'm just saying, play devil's advocate here, but insane.
Dude, he could have had a handgun out there, firing a baseball, and it wouldn't have gotten there after his throw, dude. It was a cannon.
I was just gonna say, talking out loud, the only time that you would even try to run on Vlad is if maybe you got him on the run, and he was running to right center. But even still, it didn't really matter.
No. Right?
His ability to throw flat-footed, to throw from really any kind of body angle was insane. So it wouldn't really matter. You get him off balance, you have a shot. You really still didn't even have a chance.
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
No, you only had a shot if he was running away from the play, into the gap down the line. But even then, a lot of third base coaches would be nervous to send, just knowing that he would easily turn around and just heave one.
Yeah, I mean, Cespedes was a similar way. I mean, a little bit more kind of. I think Vlad was probably a better overall fielder than Cespedes was. We can leave that in because that was mine. And I was thinking, we were going through on picking him. There was 100 assists this past year alone from Renfroe that you could have picked. I mean, that guy was an automatic, once a week outfield highlight machine.
Dude,
so recency bias had me there, but
yeah.
Go ahead.
the last week of the season, that one off the center field wall that he was backing up.
Yep.
And he just picks it up, dude, and hoses him at third. Like, the base runner was like, what just happened?
I mean,
no clue.
That game out in, was it the Angel? Was it LA? Was it a late game? I remember because I was down, Sarah and I were down in Connecticut, and I was watching at her parents' house. And was it Renfroe? I think Renfroe had an assist in the bottom of the ninth to send it to extras. And then I think he had either another one in the bottom of the 10th to keep it tie or another one on the bottom of the, but he had two in like one in the 9th and one in like the 10th.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
And it was just like, why do you keep running on this guy? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, he clearly is going to get you.
No.
Yeah. At some point, somebody's got to go to the third base coach and be like, dude, are you not watching the same game we are?
Right. Like, we're like the whole thing in baseball is right. It's like, make them make a play. It's like, all right, he's made enough. Like, he's made the plays. We've made him make the plays. Like, enough now. Like, enough of making Hunter Renfroe make the plays.
Yeah, we get it. Point proven.
And the best thing about him was almost all of them seemed to like matter and like either change the game or like keep the Red Sox in momentum. Like, they were all huge plays. Yeah. Late game, up one, down one, like keep it a two-run game. Like, they were all like huge assists that all like seemed to like change the tide.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of huge assists, look at this one we're about to queue up. Look, 1-1 in the bottom of the 8th,
I mean,
right? 1-1 bottom of the
8th.
Still I mean, I don't blame the third base coach at all for sending him here.
No, you have to, because then you just get 3 outs in the top of the inning and the game's over.
He rips that one down the left field line. Cespedes on the move. He's not going to get it. And it rolls off the side wall, and they're going to wave home Kendrick. The throw to the plate is there.
Like that ball should never beat him to the plate. Like, no runner's ever thinking that ball's going to beat him.
Cespedes did not pick it up cleanly, and when he finally did, he threw it all the way in the air, and Kendrick was out at the plate.
Jesus,
and Scioscia's out to argue.
I just love that the ball just appears from that left-hand corner. You don't even see Cespedes.
No.
He was getting ready to throw and then realized I've got to throw. And you talked about a throw. They're going to look at the play.
And like his feet weren't really set. Like it's just.
And if he doesn't,
hard throw. He just like turns and heaves.
Drop the ball. It's going to be second and third, but.
That's what, 320, 330 feet right
Yeah,
there?
this is the best angle.
An unbelievable throw all the way
the way that ball closes the gap is ridiculous.
They can look at a couple of things
and you made the point too, Sean, the way that Norris sells it. Kendrick does not think a throw is coming until it's too late.
If you got the upper leg, the bottom leg wasn't on the plate. So
if he goes in head first or slides to the side and drags his hand back, he's safe. But he didn't even know he needs to slide.
Throw and out you'll ever see.
Oh yeah, but like you normally you'd be like, well, where's the on deck bat? Like, the on-deck batter's like, okay, I'm not getting out there. Like, that's like no one in the stadium gives that any thought that that's going to be thrown out, especially once he bobbles it.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And you kind of have, like, it'd be one thing, like, if Mike Trout was up next, then it's like, all right, I'll take second, third with Mike Trout up. But Mike Trout hit that ball. So, like, your best offensive player, you know what I mean? Like, you got to take a chance. Like, I don't blame the guy for sending him.
Absolutely.
No, at that point in the game, not at all. Especially when he doesn't pick it up clean. You know, that point in the game, you have to take that chance. Like, you're going to send that runner 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And he might get thrown out 1 time out of 10, you know, if that.
That was just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. My pick for best outfield assist is Bo Jackson in Yankee Stadium. Bo Jackson throws this, just watch his feet. Because when he catches this ball, he, like, tries to get his feet in position, and then he's just like, screw it, and just lets it fly. And hoses the guy out, tagging from second.
That's into right field. That's a can of corn. Bo Jackson is there. As here's a throw, Gallego tagging it. Bo gets
like, he didn't even play it well. He didn't even play it well. He's like backpedaling to it, and he's never squared up. That's just a pure athlete.
He was flat-footed on his heels, and look at this throw. All the way, good catch and tag right here by Robin on the short hop, and he got him.
Yeah, it's insane.
Oh, my.
I mean, if we're going to talk about the greatness of that play, it's Robin Ventura catching on the short hop.
I mean, that team was fun to watch, and I love that team.
Dude.
Frank Thomas, Ozzie Guillen, Joey Cora, Robin Ventura, Ron Karkovice was behind the plate. They had Jack McDowell on the mound.
Blackjack.
And did you just see the outfield? It was Tim Raines, Ellis Burks, and Bo Jackson. Like, dude, oh my God, they were awesome. I love that team so much.
That was a fun team.
Tim Raines was not a small dude, and Bo Jackson. Like, just go show you how big Bo is, like how built he is. Like Tim Raines is not a small guy.
Yeah,
massive,
crazy.
Bo was a giant human being.
Yeah, I mean, just throw out a Yankee at third base and then go run the ball 30 times that night too. You know, like just insane. Dude.
Yeah, whatever. Run for $150 and hose a couple guys, no biggie.
Yeah. So I actually wrote in my notes. I go Vladimir Guerrero every time he touches the ball. It's literally what I wrote. And then I know it's not an outfield assist, but this is my favorite infield assist of all time. Is I can explain it and you guys will know exactly what I'm talking about. As Drupal Cabrera up the middle is deflected off the pitcher, he reaches back, barehands it, and then flips it behind his back to start a double play. Yeah. Like, I mean, like that whole thing was just so smooth. It just goes back, flips it. Like,
the crazy thing is, like, I think we're so conditioned. Like, we see double plays happen all the time. There's 1,000 ground outs every game. Like, I think what we take for granted, like, the quick reaction and reflexes that these special middle infielders have at the major league level. Like, because you just see it so frequently. Like, outfield assists don't happen as often. So, they're kind of more of a wow factor. But, like, some of these guys, man, the way that the ball changes direction, or, like, how quick these runners are, and, the soft hands that it takes for them to get their feet in position to field a ground ball, get it over to second base, quick turns, and it happens so often that we're just like, oh yeah, that was a nice play. It's like, that was disgusting. Like what some of these guys do on a regular basis.
Like, I feel like you don't see the ball change direction at all. Like it comes to them and it's already in their hand and it's already on their way to first. And like you said, like the average fan doesn't understand like what that takes. It's like, when I was talking about Omar Vizquel last week, like he's the legit magician. Like he's the best of the best at it. Like you see the ball coming in from somebody, but you don't see it get into his throwing hand. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, I feel like when you think back, like think back to the late '80s, the '90s, the early 2000s, that might have been like the best era of defensive like wizards in the history of the game. Because you think about like in the outfield, you had Guerrero and Suzuki. Ichiro had an absolute cannon. You had Jim Edmonds out there. You had Vizquel. You had all these guys, Baerga, Alomar, like all these guys that were like glove geniuses. Scott Rowland, one of the best third basemen of all time. Yeah. You had so many like just amazingly talented defensive players in the game in that span. Where like today you look around the league and like how many, like you see the Gold Gloves given out and how many guys do you go, oh yeah, that's totally a Gold Glove guy.
Joey Gallo.
Right, Joey Gallo. When like you had legitimate guys that were like they were battling for Gold Gloves with other guys who had ridiculous defensive stats too. And
I mean, I think where you see the big discrepancy now is like corner infield guys. Like there are a few third basemen that are just like Manny Machado being. I mean, I'm sorry,
Nolan Arenado being one.
Yeah, Arenado.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Like. There are head and shoulders guys at like the middle infield. I mean, I'm sorry, the corner infield positions, but I'm with you, Harrison, on the middle infield part.
I miss the days of guys like Vizquel. There's nobody like him that's been in the game since. There's Ozzie, then it became Vizquel, and then there's been really nobody since. And so many of these shortstops are, you think of Correa and Bogarts and Story, and they're all really good players, but like they're not great defensively. They're good. They're good defenders. They're not great defensive players. They just that skill set just isn't there like it used to be.
Well, that's how the game's evolved, right? Like everyone's sitting back and launching. You don't need to be good at defense if you can put up 55 home runs in a year. Like
and strike out.
Well, right. That's the idea. Like if offensively, if you can account for 300 runs offensively, it's fine if you cost us 125 defensively because we're still on the plus 175.
Yep.
Like, right, and exactly. I'm using, bad numbers, but that's kind of the logic.
100%.
Totally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Totally.
Yeah, crazy. Like I said, there's so many more outfield assists out there. I mean, Guerrero's got a ton. Cespedes has a ton. Like Jackson has another one. Like a couple others. Like There's just so many out there.
Yeah, and if as people are watching this, if you can think of some awesome assists we've missed, put them in the comments. Send us some YouTube links.
Sure. Yeah,
I'd love to see some other assists that maybe we didn't consider.
Absolutely.
Oh, there's nothing better than like wasting an hour or so at work just going through the rabbit hole. So post as many as you guys want. I'll watch them.
I love to find those best of videos. I'll sit there for 7, 8, 9 minutes and burn my time up with best shortstop dives of 2011. I'll watch that.
I'll be like in the middle of work and then just find myself like 5 minutes into a video and then be like, whoops, like what have I been doing?
Yeah. You kids in the classroom, you take care of yourselves. I'm just gonna watch baseball videos.
I gave them a worksheet. They're all good.
That's fine.
Oh man, goodness.
Our educational system is strong.
I'm really more responsible than that, I promise. If anybody from school is watching this. Anyways,
Yes.
we're gonna move on to our fifth inning showdown here, where Harrison and I are going to debate whether Curt Schilling should be in the Hall or not. Harrison doesn't think so, and I do think so, just because Harrison's wrong, and I'm going to prove it. But Sean, do you have any questions for us off the top, or do you want us to give our opening statements here?
No questions yet. I do have a couple questions, but I'm gonna hold them till a little bit later.
All right. Harrison, do you want to go first as a no, or do you want me to go?
I'll go first. I'll defend my position. So I'm going back to, I don't believe in the Hall of Very Good. I believe in the Hall of Fame. And when I look at Curt Schilling's body of work, which I'll go through here in a minute, I consider him to be one of a very good, maybe one of the better pitchers of his era, but he's not a Hall of Famer in my mind. Now, people are going to argue it's the postseason. It's the postseason. Well, yeah, he was great in the postseason. Nobody can argue that point, but he didn't only pitch in the postseason. So I'm going to run through why I don't feel he's a Hall of Famer, but trust me, I love Curt Schilling. I mean, as a Red Sox fan, I mean, Bloody Sock right here. I mean, I'm a huge Curt Schilling fan in general, but I just don't think he's a Hall of Famer. So here's where I fall on Curt Schilling. When you look at his body of work, he was a good major league pitcher, very good major league pitcher. When you look at the highlights of his career, kind of his years in Arizona and Boston, he wasn't even the number one. He wasn't even the best pitcher on his team. He sat behind Randy Johnson. He sat behind Pedro Martinez, and he sat behind those two guys at their peak, like at elite levels. I'm just saying.
No,
doesn't mean
I get it, but like if those are two guys you're gonna sit behind, those are the two guys you're gonna sit behind.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's like saying Jaromir Jagr's not that great because he played with Mario Lemieux, so he wasn't even the best player on his line. It's like, yeah, but Jaromir Jagr was pretty goddamn good.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying he was sitting behind slouches, but like he was not.
Continue.
You know, it wasn't like he carried those teams all by himself. He was surrounded by a lot of talent. He wasn't even the number one guy on those pitching staffs. Doesn't make him less of a pitcher. Doesn't make him less of a pitcher. No Cy Youngs to his name. Finished second 3 times. You could argue one of those he truly got snubbed, but the other 2 he lost out to guys that just had better years. He only won 20 games 3 times. Yeah. So, I mean, really, he was only in Cy Young contention his whole career. I mean, like really good contention 3 times, and he finished second. He got some votes along the way, but he was only second 3 times, and then he finished, I think, 4th, and then a bunch of like 7 and 8s. If you put him in the Hall of Fame right now, he would be in the bottom third of starting pitchers in the Hall of Fame in terms of wins. So he's not in the upper level. He's not in the middle. He's in the bottom third. So not like a slam dunk Hall of Famer, given the guys they've let in, but he wouldn't be the worst guy they let in, but not a slam dunk in my mind. The postseason stats are insane. He had obviously some hiccups, but his postseason stats are nuts. But when you look at his body of work, he's got 216 career wins, an ERA of nearly 3.5. His strikeout to walk ratio is one of the best ever. That's his major claim to fame, is the fact that he struck out over 3,000 batters, only walked 700.
That's silly.
It's insane. He was not a insanely reliable guy. He'd have 3 seasons of 35 starts, and then he'd be like 20, 16, and then he'd be like 35, 20. Battled a decent number of injuries. He's only a 6-time All-Star in 20 seasons. A guy that really for the first, really until the 97 season with the Phillies, which was really his 10th year, was kind of a nobody. He was just bouncing around the league. He had played for 3 teams in his first 10 years. He was a reliever, he was a starter, he was a reliever, he was a starter. Never really found his place, which is probably why his stats are where they are. But you're talking about a guy that was only truly dominant when you look at his stats, was only truly dominant for 4 seasons of his career. Otherwise, he was a 11-game winner, a 15-game winner, 9-game, 7-game, 6-game, 8-game, 15-game. He was really only dominant for 4 seasons of his career, and then a couple of postseasons. So when I look at the body of work, I say, was he a very good pitcher? Yeah, he was a very good pitcher. But he really only had 4 seasons of note. Otherwise, he was average. And he was on some really good teams that won, that he was certainly a part of. But he was never the guy, except in Philadelphia when they sucked. And in most seasons, except for a 17-win season, he wasn't a difference maker there. He didn't become a difference maker till he was on better teams.
I mean, yeah, his overall stats don't jump off of the page of you. They don't. I mean, there was a couple that I saw. He only gave up 347 career home runs with 3,000 Ks. He had a 1.1 whip. I mean, that's pretty damn good. 20-year career, like you said, 6-time All-Star. So 6 out of 20, not necessarily the best. He did lead the league in wins twice, innings twice, strikeouts twice, whip twice, and walk rate twice. So, I mean, he was up towards the top of the league in a couple seasons. Is Tom Glavine a Hall of Famer in your eyes?
Is Tom Glavine a Hall of Famer in my eyes?
Yes.
He's a borderline guy.
But is he in your eyes, yes or no?
Yes, he's in.
Okay. You love the stat war, right? Curt Schilling has a higher WAR than Tom Glavine.
He does.
Saying. He does. He has a higher WAR than Tom Glavine. And he's just slightly under Bob Gibson, to put that in perspective.
Yep.
So, I mean, and you can't not put in his postseason work. And you can't just dismiss his postseason work for the Hall of Fame. That's not how it works. Either that, Sandy Koufax wouldn't be in. Sandy Koufax had a short career, and a lot of it was postseason success. So Curt Schilling had 19 starts in the postseason. His team went 14-5 when he started for them. 11-2, 2.2 ERA, 0.97 WHIP, 133 innings, 120 Ks. 3 rings, MVP of the 93 NLCS, and co-World Series MVP with Randy Johnson. So you say he pitched behind Randy Johnson, but you just can't have 2 starting pitchers start game 1. That's how it works. So they could have put Curt Schilling in there, but maybe the matchup just made so Randy Johnson was a better number 1.
Didn't Schilling start game 1 of that series?
He probably could have. I don't know. I didn't.
No, I'm pretty sure he did start game 1 of that series.
Yeah. So it says, I also found Schilling was given the ball in a game 1, 6 out of the 11 postseason series, and in 4 starts when his team was facing elimination. So when facing elimination, he only allowed 6 runs on 22 hits and 1 walk in 30 innings, and struck out 27. And his team won all 4 games, by the way. And I mean,
so that was going to be my first question to you guys. Is your nuts are on the line. You're on the road. You lose, you go home. Pick the series. World Series, ALCS, NLCS, doesn't matter. You pick the series. You're on the road. Your nuts are on the line. You want Curt Schilling, you want Randy Johnson, or you want Pedro on the mound?
I mean,
because I can tell you in that scenario, I mean, obviously I'm happy with all 3, but in that scenario,
I was just going to say, I'll take any of them.
In that scenario, though, I can only have 1 out of those 3. I'm probably going with Curt Schilling.
I mean, you can't look at the picture behind Harrison right now, right? I mean, game 6, 1 run, 7 innings on 1 ankle. Like, we had Jim Rowe on, what was it, week 3, week 4? Yep. And he was telling us about that ankle and about who he had to, contact. And, he went through the ringer to figure out what to do with this ankle. Like, to have Curt Schilling go out there and give you a 1-run performance in 7 innings. And, wasn't it, the first or second inning they had that little dribbler up the first baseline?
Yeah.
And he hobbles over, and the Red Sox Nation just goes,
don't run for it. Don't do it.
And he made the play. Are you kidding me?
And you've heard Jeter and A-Rod in years since then have said, looking back, Like, how do we not make him prove time and time again that he can get off the mound? They never did. There was not a single bunt. They didn't bunt one time to make him play defense.
Yeah, that was a huge mistake.
It was one of the biggest mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I know this is on you guys, but I it's not, to me, the Schilling thing, the numbers don't jump off the page. But I will say, just really to interject, my 20 seasons, 6 All-Stars, right? But I know you can't really do this, but if you take the career and split him in half, when he really kind of came into his own and found himself to the kind of player that he was those last few years in Philly before he went to Arizona, that's a 10-season career, 6 All-Stars in 10 years, right? So I know the full body of work, but he kind of bounced around a little while, but there's plenty of guys out there that takes them a little while to kind of come into their own and figure out who they are. And when he did, man, I mean, he was as good as they got in his era.
Yeah. And my final argument to put him in, this is also postseason. He's the top 10 in postseason wins, strikeouts, innings, and starts in MLB history. 56 strikeouts in a single postseason is also an MLB record. That's complete dominance. 56 Ks in a single postseason. Crazy. But, you're right. His regular season stuff, probably the numbers aren't there. He's not a 300-game winner. His ERA is a little bit high. He only started 436 games. I mean, that's still a pretty decent amount, but in the grand scheme of it, 3,261 innings pitched, but his postseason, you just can't ignore it.
His regular seasons were, inconsistent and average, except for probably 3 seasons where he was utterly dominant. You're putting the vote for Curt Schilling in the Hall is not about his stats. It's literally about the 19 postseason games he was on the mound for. And so in many ways, putting him in the Hall is like not putting somebody else in the Hall who didn't have a lot of postseason experience. Like what's Mike Trout's career going to look like at the end? Are people going to talk about the fact he never played in the postseason? I mean, his stats are going to have to be so ungodly good because he's got no postseason experience. It's like they should be. But it's like last week comparing Manny and Griffey. You can't even compare the two in the postseason. Griffey never got a friggin' shot,
right? Because
he was on terrible teams.
I was blown away at how many postseason at bats he's had in his career.
Yeah,
that number blew me away.
Scary. But so I think the vote for Schill is going to be it's based on the handful of really, really huge games that he was in. The body of work's not impressive. He is a ambassador for baseball is not a strong argument. He's not liked in MLB circles. He's not liked by the media. He's not liked generally. He said some stupid things, done some stupid things, and the character clause is what ultimately maybe what the Hall of Fame leans on to say we don't want this guy here. Yeah. But on stats alone, no, he's not a Hall of Famer. On his postseason experience, it's incredibly impressive.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, unfortunately, it isn't the Hall of Fame anymore. It's a career achievement. If we like you well enough and you have okay numbers, okay, we'll let you in. Okay, and I mean, that's like you just said, that's the one thing that's going to keep him out is the stuff that happened after baseball with the failed video game company and just his outspoken political views and all that stuff.
Getting fired from ESPN for derogatory remarks towards women, minorities, and all the other stuff he's done.
Yeah, and like you said, the character clause is going to keep him out if it does. I mean, he's got 71% last year, and he needs 4 more percent. So I mean, he's borderline. He could get there, and I mean, at this point, I say let him in. Like, why not? I mean, everybody else is in there. Like, I think I even got a percentage of the vote this year. So, I mean.
I'm pretty sure Mickey Mouse has gotten some percentage every single year. People just write him in.
Like, goodness gracious. It's become a joke. Like, it's terrible. Like, I'm okay with a big haul if they're all elite. But you can't have a big haul if they're all elite. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I said last week, if you didn't change a game or you have to be game planned around, like you game plan around Mike Trout. he's in, no doubt. You game planned around Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera. Like, you did that.
You game planned around Schilling, though, especially in the postseason. In those years, that second back, those last 8 years of his career, when that guy was on the mound, if you were the opposing manager, you found a way to get a run early, and then you played. That was it. You got up early, and then you held on tight, and you hoped. Like, that was you. There was no like, oh, well, we'll feel him out and see how it goes. You know, like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. That splitter, when his splitter was on, man, oh God, disgusting. Like, one of the best I've ever seen. And I mean,
and he, he was like the Tom Brady of baseball too. Like, in the way he prepared, like he had his notebook, he had all of his notes, he knew exactly everybody's tendencies. Like, he drew up his own game plan from his own notes. Like, the guy didn't need the video; he already knew what these guys were doing, what they were chasing, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they could hit, what they couldn't. It was freakish the level of study he put into it.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, and we've talked about guys that they could tell you what's coming, you still couldn't hit it. That was his splitter. When his splitter was on, like, he could literally wiggle those fingers at you. Oh, this is what's coming, and you would miss it by 6 inches. It was not close.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm pretty sure if I recall correctly, that Clemens actually learned the splitter from Schilling, I believe, and that's actually what turned Clemens' whole career around was developing that pitch.
Yeah. And man. As someone that threw it, I mean, I didn't throw 90 miles an hour, so mine was more like a fork ball because it was like a changeup. But when it was on, man, that thing falls off the table. Like, it's got a funky spin to it, and it just comes in, boom, just disappears. Like,
it's got like a
physics,
little wobble
man.
to it.
It doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't at all. Like,
no, it
science does not make sense.
Yeah.
So I would say for Schill, I as much as I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, if he gets in, I wouldn't be upset. I think he's as a Red Sox fan, I can appreciate the 4 years they got out of him, what he did for him. His body of work is what it is. He had a hell of a 7-year run there. And if he gets in, he gets in. But he's one of those bubble players that it's going to depend on. It's honestly, his stats aren't overwhelming enough that now he's leaving it up to how the media feels about him, which is dangerous. If his stats were better, it'd be no question.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I honestly think it might depend on if the steroid guys get in or not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, I think that could be a deciding factor on, because the writers aren't going to do what I did last week and put 11 guys in. You know what I mean? They're just not. They're not.
No. The only thing that might outside chance it helps him too is his last year. I mean, you might have some guys last year. You said he got 71%. You might have guys that go, you know what? It's his last opportunity. And if we take all the political bullshit off the table and we take the failed video game company off the table, which quite frankly should not hold weight on somebody's place in a Hall of Fame or not.
Absolutely.
It shouldn't. It does, but it shouldn't. If we take that off the table, maybe there's enough guys out there to say, you know what? Yes, he belongs in there, and we made him sweat over it. We made him wait the full 10 years, but so maybe he squeaks in at 75%. I'd be a little bit surprised, to be honest, but I'm a little hopeful because I do think he belongs in there. And in theory, I would side with Harrison in the argument, like in theory, because I'm a small hall guy too, and I know Schilling was a guy that you game plan against, but Curt Schilling did not change baseball. Like Curt Schilling did not have a 15-year career where, like, during those 15 years, he was must-see TV every 5 days. Like, that just wasn't what it was.
No, fair.
But the guys
totally fair.
The other guys the guys of that era that they've already let in were not as good of pitchers as Curt Schilling, especially when it comes to the post.
Yep.
So it's like in theory, I would side with it, but in reality, it's like you can't keep that guy out and tell me it's not political.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess we'll leave this one up to our viewers, really. I mean, because I think we're all on the fence. And either way, we wouldn't, we're not going to lose sleep over it. I think it's kind of what we've agreed on, right? I mean, body of work, not necessarily.
If he was a nicer guy, if he was like a nicer guy, I probably would lose sleep over it. But
yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we just leave it and see if anybody comments on it, and I'll talk to them about it. Tonight, I guess. It's weird.
Yeah. Right now.
Right now.
I'd love to hear arguments for and against other people's perspective on him. I mean, as a proud card carrying member of Red Sox Nation, I thank Curt for everything.
Absolutely.
and really enjoyed the few years he was here. But it's now in somebody else's hands to determine if he gets to hang a plaque. And the other question is, if they do, what hat is he wearing?
Yeah. I mean, I'll say my last thing I'll say about Curt Schilling is mixed people are in and out, mixed bag on the guy as a person and whatever. I don't know the guy personally. So some of it could be true. All of it could be true. None of it, I don't fucking know. But I can tell you this. When that guy was on in 04, 05 for the Red Sox, he was a bulldog. And like those were fun games to watch, especially come postseason time, because he would give you you hear Belichick talk about emptying the tank and then refill it up every week. That was Curt Schilling. That dude would empty the tank every single 5 days on the mound. And so whether he had his best stuff or not, like he was always fun to watch. So, Hall of Fame, I don't know, but I'll give him that.
And my final thing is that Game 6 performance I will always remember that Game 6 performance. Like out of I've seen Pedro in person and I remember glimpses of it. But dude, like that Game 6 and what it brought to the Red Sox nation, like will never be forgotten. Like, I mean, talk about balls of steel during that entire game was just
dude, and you add to the fact that he said in the earlier in the series, what can be better than going to Yankee Stadium and shutting everybody up, and then laid an absolute egg, laid an egg in like Game 2, right? And then to have to come back in Game 6 with your nuts on the line and do what he did, forget about it.
Crazy.
Forget about it.
All right, so we are now going to move on to the 7th inning stretch where we are on to the Mount Rushmore of one of the worst divisions in the league here, the AL West. So I have the best two teams. No, I don't. I have the Astros and the Angels. Harrison has the Rangers. And Sean has the other two. I don't even know who they are.
A's and Mariners, baby.
Thank you. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot your team again, Stacy. So I guess I'll start. I'll start with I'll get the Astros off the board real quick here.
Good.
First one, Jeff Bagwell, 2,300 hits, 450 home runs, 1,500 RBIs, 200 stolen bases for Jeff Bagwell.
Ooh.
Yeah, right? I was like,
he ran a little bit early in his career.
Yeah, he did. 1,400 career walks. That's a lot. 297 batting average, rookie of the year, MVP, 4-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger. Okay, steroid guy. Moving on, Craig Biggio, 3,000 hits, 291 home runs, nothing crazy, 414 stolen bases, 281, 7-time All-Star, 4-time Gold Glove, 5-time Silver Slugger. Nolan Ryan is on both of my lists this week, actually. 9 years in Houston, threw his 5th no-hitter in Houston. Also hit a 3-run shot off Don Sutton. And his players were quoted saying he was the only pitcher you would think about 2 days before actually facing him. I mean, you knew Nolan Ryan was coming down the pipe. You were like, yeah, can I have a day off on Tuesday, please? Like you just didn't want to face him. And then my 4th one, I kind of went back and forth on Lance Berkman and this guy, Roy Oswalt. I went with. I settled with Roy. Won at least 14 games a year, including a 20-game win season in all but 1 year. 1,852 Ks. And he was completely lights out when he wasn't hurt. I mean, when he was healthy and he was on, he was unhittable. He was just flat out nasty.
He's one of those pitchers that you always wonder, like, what would it have been like if he hadn't had the injuries?
Yeah. I mean, he was lights out for sure.
So fun.
But, yeah. All right. Now that's it for the Astros. So, Sean, you want to take one of yours?
Yeah, I'll do Oakland. I'll do the A's. And I was actually telling Harrison when we just got on that this was a fun one because it was like a little bit more difficult than I probably expected it to be. Mm-hmm. It's a team with a lot of history, but like a lot of really, really, really good ball players from like that 70s, 80s era. But like not just really good ball players that were like career good and like played for Oakland, but like they were really good with Oakland. Like they had great careers, but like with Oakland, they were really good too. So it was like, how do you pick 4? But I'll go number 1, Ricky Henderson. I mean, I don't know how you don't go with Ricky Henderson. What was the stat, Nick? I saw it the other day.
Harrison.
Oh yeah.
If someone stole 50 bases for the next 28 years, they still wouldn't touch his record.
Yep.
Disgusting. It's like absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
like, okay,
it's just obscene.
I saw another one scrolling through Twitter earlier today that said Starling Marte led Major League Baseball last year with 42 steals. That led baseball. There was one year where Ricky Henderson had like 42 by like the end of May, or like some stupid number like that. Like it was in this guy, he led baseball last year with 42. Ricky Henderson had it in like a month and a half.
So I made that argument too, because I commented on that meme, and it's like no one's gonna get on without hitting a home run that many times in a season ever again. Like you're not gonna record 80 singles and steal 160 bases. It's never gonna happen the way that
Ricky Henderson stole 66 bases when he was 39. I mean,
so Ricky Henderson,
right.
though. So Ricky, but he was, I mean, the guy was an elite, the best base stealer of all time. I don't think there's anyone that's going to argue that, but he's the greatest leadoff hitter of all time, in my opinion. I mean, this guy was all-time Major League Baseball leader in walks, runs, stolen bases, and leadoff home runs. Also has a Gold Glove to his name, 10 All-Stars, and he won an MVP. So, like, he wasn't just a guy that would get on steal. I mean, he stole bases. He stole 100,000 bases. But, like, the ability to get on base, draw walks, and the rare power that you would get from the leadoff spot. So Ricky Henderson's one for me. Another one that going into it, I'm like, there's no way he's going to be on my list. Like, no way. But was Catfish Hunter. Like, I knew he was good. Obviously, like, he was way before my time, 60s and 70s. But, like, you hear the number, and you're just like, the guy had a sweet mustache. Like, he was a good pitcher. And then you look in, right? This guy was an 8-time All-Star. He won 5 World Series. He won a Cy Young with them, 5th all-time. So he's top 10 in all of these categories in athletic history. He's 5th all-time in wins with 161, 5th all-time in strikeouts with 1,520, 4th all-time in shutouts in 31, 8th in complete games with 116. So that's a rich history of ball players. And this guy's top 10 in all those categories. I mean, got to be on the top 4.
For sure.
Number 3, another pitcher for 3, Eck. How do you not put Eck on the list? I mean, unbelievable. Guy comes in as a starter. Their closer, Jay Howell, gets hurt in 1987. Eck steps in. Next thing you know, he's a top closer in baseball. Wins a Cy Young and MVP in 1992. In the 6-year span of 88 to 92, he wins. The 4-year span. Math is hard. All-star team, right? First all-time in the A's list in saves, 320, and then 7th all-time in ERA. So this guy was bouncing. He was a starter. He was a closer. He goes back into the starting rotation, and keeps like a sub-3 ERA for his career in Oakland, 2.74. And unbelievable commentator. Now, I know it's for the Red Sox, has nothing to do with Oakland, but like there were times in the past few years, like when the Sox were like almost unwatchable, but you had to tune in to listen to Eck. And the guy is just all-time unbelievable. And then the 4th one for the A's.
You know what's amazing with Eck? You know what's amazing with Eck on that, Sean? He had that Cy Young and MVP year. He was 37.
Yeah, right.
Like that was a lot of his success came late in his career.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a fun guy though too. I mean, like obviously he gives up the home run to
Kirk
Gibson there, but he's still. Once a year, Nesson will show it with Eck in the booth, and then they'll show it, and it's so because they call for a fastball and Eck shakes him off. He wants to throw the slider, and then he hangs the slider, and Gibson takes it to the moon. And then they'll show the clip, and then Eck's like, I don't know why he didn't put down fastball. Like, I should have thrown a fastball, right? Like, he knows it's one of the most famous clips of all time, and he'll just, like, joke himself about it. Like, I love everything about the guy.
That's awesome.
And then the 4th one for me was not a player for the A's, but Billy Beane. I know they haven't won a championship with Billy Beane, and I know that's a big knock, is the lack of postseason success, if you will. But what Billy Beane has done as the general manager of that small market baseball team, which has been, glorified and dramatized through Moneyball and all that stuff, but is ridiculous. I mean, we're talking, and I know that Moneyball movie was about the 03 team that ended up losing in the postseason to the Yankees and this, that, or the other. And it's always the Yankees that beat us in the postseason. They won it was 4 years in a row, they won over 100 games.
Yeah.
That team, for what the market was and then what they were going up against. You had the Yankees at that time was just buying everybody, dominant. But that's also the time in that division in 2019, late 90s, early 2000s. Seattle was no joke at that time either, right? So, I mean, they're not winning 95, 96, 97, 98 games in a dog shit division. It was a bit top heavy, right? But those Seattle teams were not terrible Seattle teams back in the day, late 90s, early 2000s. So for Billy Beane to do what he did and be able to, bring in, identify the young talent, mold that young talent, there was always that joke that he would literally make young pitchers, make them into great pitchers, and then trade them away for more prospects. And he did that for years on end. But, it's a shame that they haven't had the postseason success because I think the guy's a genius. So I think he belongs on that list. So he's my fourth.
And the funny thing is, Billy Beane's legacy is actually all over the league. Because to that point, you think of all the players that
nowadays
came through that they discovered and developed and groomed, that all went other places. I mean, the Major League Baseball is full of guys that Billy Beane basically plucked off the scrap heap and turned into very serviceable, sometimes elite major leaguers.
Yeah. Yes, he's
for sure.
Just that run in the early 2000s when it was brought up a pitcher, sent him away. Brought up a pitcher, Tim Hudson and Mark Mulder, and it was just pitcher after pitcher after
Barry
pitcher.
Zito.
Barry Zito, and it's thanks for coming, and you're gone. Thanks for coming, you're gone.
Yeah. Oh, you're too expensive. Move on. Thanks for a few good years.
As soon as that rookie contract was up,
and it wasn't just pitchers though, dude. I mean, it was. I mean, Miguel Tejada. Tejada was a young shortstop.
Eric Chavez
behind the dish was Eric Chavez.
Right.
I mean, it was just, it seemed like every year they had that new guy that was just oh, watch out for this young guy in Oakland. He'd have 2 or 3 really good years and then he's gone. And then they'd replace him with someone else. It was really remarkable.
Yeah.
Yep. Just plug and play.
All
right. I had my underdog Rangers, my dark horse pick for 2022, if there's baseball. So I actually, this one was actually more challenging than I thought because when you look at the Rangers, there's really not a lot of history there. So you don't have a lot to draw from. So I've got 4 and then an honorable mention that I wanted to put in, but I'm I just can't do it. There's people that belong ahead of him. So for me, first is obviously Ivan Rodriguez, Pudge Rodriguez. I mean, his body of work is insane. He was there 13 seasons, 10-time All-Star, 10-time Gold Glove winner, 6 Silver Sluggers. I mean, the guy was the catcher for a decade. There was nobody that even was close to him in terms of what he could do. Number 2 for me was Adrian Beltre. And I love Adrian Beltre.
Love the pick.
Love Beltre. But in his time there, 3-time All-Star, 3 Gold Gloves, 2 Silver Sluggers. He was the top 7 in MVP voting 4 times. And while he was there, he had 477 home runs and drove in more than 1,700 runs. And not only that, but he was a fan favorite. The people in Texas still love him.
Everywhere he went.
Yeah.
Everywhere he went, he was.
He was great. The Dodgers couldn't wait to get rid of him. He was great in Boston. He was really great in Texas. And the fans absolutely adored him. Yeah, sorry. There you go.
Dude, all those video clips with him and Elvis Andrus though are hilarious, dude. They mock each other on a pop-up, or they're trying to touch his head and stuff. Oh my god, dude!
Yeah,
so
they
good.
crack me up. Those are videos you just get lost in.
Yeah, all the time.
Number 3 for me is Juan Gonzalez.
Yes.
Juan Gon spent 13 seasons there.
Yep.
So Juan Gon was there for 13 seasons. He won the AL MVP in 96 and 98. In 96, he helped them to get to their first postseason appearance when he hit 47 home runs and drove in 144 runs.
He had 109 RBIs before the All-Star break that year.
He was on a pace to beat Hack Wilson that year, and then he fell off at the end. But
the All-Star break.
In 13 seasons with the Rangers, he hit 372 home runs and drove in 1,180 runs to be the franchise's all-time leader in that category.
Yeah.
I mean, Juan Gone for so many years was like was the thump in the middle of that lineup.
Yep.
And then the last player for me, which was a tough one, but I feel like it's the right one, is Michael Young.
Ooh,
a
yeah.
very underappreciated player. He was with the Rangers, he was a 7-time All-Star at 3 different infield positions. He won a batting title in 2005, a Gold Glove in 2008, and he's the club's all-time leader in hits and games, with 2,320 hits in 1,823 games. So
Wait,
he's
how
not.
Many hits?
He had 2,320 hits.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the guy
Yeah.
played 3 different positions, 7-time All-Star, won a batting title, won a Gold Glove at shortstop, which was a brand new position to him. He was such a good Ranger for so long. They weren't great while he was there. And then my honorable mention is Nolan Ryan. Everybody remembers his 5 seasons in Texas. He threw 2 no-hitters while he was there. He politicked hard for the new stadium, and they feel like he was a big reason that he was able to get the fan base to support it. But in his 5 years there, I mean, it wasn't like he changed that organization in any way. It was fun to have Nolan there, and he was a Texan, and that was big that he was playing, back in his home state. So he to me is an honorable mention, but I think Michael Young belongs on that Mount Rushmore.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great pick.
Yeah.
And I mean, also, a lot of people don't know this, but Mike Stanton came up as a Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
Mike Stanton.
Oh, you're right. Mike Stanton.
It's John Carlos Stanton.
Yeah.
Was a Texas Ranger, and then they shipped him to Miami. Chris Davis came up with the Rangers, and then went to the Orioles before he.
Josh Hamilton. Those couple years, Josh Hamilton was a dynamite.
Will Clark played there for a while. I mean, some great names that have been there, but I mean, honestly, Mark Teixeira.
Yep.
Those 4 names you picked are definitely.
Texas too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But those 4 are definitely. I agree with you 100% on all 4 of those. All right, so I'm moving on to the Angels. First one, Mike Trout. I mean, It's Mike Trout.
Yep, done. Moving on.
Nolan Ryan. 4 out of his 7 no-hitters were in the California Angels. And during that 8-year span with the Angels, he also had 6 one-hitters.
Oh,
he had
good God.
4 no-hitters and 6 one-hitters in an 8-year span. Talk about utter dominance, dude. Like, unreal.
Jesus.
Yeah, crazy.
Wow.
Tim Salmon, number 3.
I love that pick. Love Tim Salmon. I was always a Salmon fan.
Yeah, 1,674 hits, so not crazy. 300 home run, 299 homers. Sorry, I can't quite put him in the 300 plateau. 1,000 RBIs, hit 282, Rookie of the Year, Silver Slugger. But yeah, Tim Salmon, like during that time in the 90s, like when you thought of the Angels, it was Tim Salmon, it was Troy Glaus, and then it was this last guy in that whole group is Garrett Anderson.
Love Garrett Anderson.
Another good one.
2,529 hits, 287 home runs, 1,365 RBIs, 293 batting average. 3-time All-Star, and a lot of people don't know this probably, but he's the only player in Major League history to win the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game MVP in the same year.
No kidding.
Oh wow!
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
Those are my 4 Angels, and like I joked about last week, I was gonna put Shohei on the left side as the pitcher, and then Shohei on the right side as the hitter, but I just couldn't do it yet.
No.
I mean, he'll be up there for sure, and then I'm sure he'll be the manager after he retires. And,
yeah, no, those are good picks. I like those.
Yeah, so
those were good.
Yeah. So all right, so then Sean's got the last one,
and then round it out with Seattle, saving the best for last. Seattle was a fairly, I wouldn't say an easy one. I mean, I think there's kind of 4 guys that are there, and it's tough to pick anyone else other than the 4 guys. First one, obviously, is Griffey, right? I mean, if you need reasons as to why Griffey's on there, like, you just don't have a pulse. Guy's unreal. And, something that I didn't really notice until I was kind of looking into it, but, he shows up in 1989, right? Rookie year 1989. people are, there's things that I was reading there. People were saying like the fact that Seattle, the city of Seattle, still has a baseball team in 2021/2022. Like, you thank Griffey for that. Like 1989, it was pretty bare bones out there. They were not very good, and this guy shows up and he's just a lightning rod. I mean, the smile, the charisma, the energy, the absolute dominance in the batter's box, the Gold Glove highlights in the outfield. I mean, we've been gushing on Griffey for weeks on this podcast.
The back-to-back with your old man.
Dude, I was just going to say, playing with his dad.
So cool.
I mean, come on.
All of it. I mean, all of it. Unreal. Funny stat, not that this like helps him or doesn't help him be number one on Mount Rushmore, because it's already cemented. Griffey was third in Rookie of the Year voting in 1989. He was third. The first one was some closer in Baltimore. He had like 27 saves or some shit as a rookie in 1989, and he won. Second place Rookie of the Year was Tom Gordon, pitcher in Kansas City.
Oh, Flash!
Second in Rookie of the Year.
Nice.
And then the
Flash
Griff Dog
Gordon
comes in third place. Yeah,
Wow.
and then
Love
the
it.
Griff Dog comes in third place. So that's Griffey number one. Pretty easy. Number two was pretty easy. Probably could have made an argument for number one is Edgar. Definitely. Probably the best all-around offensive player in the history of the Mariners, right? A-Rod has like the Mariners OPS team history at 934, but Edgar's right there at 933. He's literally like a tenth of a point behind him. And I give obviously Edgar for longevity. I mean, the guy played his whole career there. Most in team history in games as far as 2,055. Most scored runs in the history of the Mariners, 1,219. 312 career average. This stat was crazy when I looked this up. He walked a total of 1,283 times in a Seattle Mariners uniform, which is by far first place. The next best is Griffey with like 800 and something. So it's like, it's not just first place, it's like a long shot first place. Obviously, we talked the other day about the best hit in Mariners history, so there's no need to relive that one. So Edgar's, definitely number two. 3, it was between Randy Johnson and Ichiro. I'm going to give Ichiro the nod for 3. Just puts Randy Johnson at 4. So they're both on there. But I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, what can you say about Ichiro, right? I mean, 2001, the guy shows up and does nothing but just become a hit machine for like the next like 60 years.
Scary.
I mean, it was watching what this guy did at the plate was, I remember so many times, whether they were playing the Red Sox or not, but just getting so frustrated, being like, this guy doesn't get out. You just can't get him out. And it was like, I didn't even have a stake in the game, but it was just so frustrating because it's like he would just wait and slap it and slap it and slap it and then just fucking launch one out of nowhere, like second deck in right field. It's like, what the hell is going on here? He was just an offensive, he was a machine. A machine in the sense of he was just so clinical.
So they actually say that like Ichiro could hit home runs at will, but it just wasn't his game.
Oh, I'm
like
sure
there was like a running story where they were like, Ichiro, I bet you can't go deep. So he goes, oh yeah, watch this. He gets into the cage, and the next round he sees 8 pitches, and all 8 pitches end up over the fence. Like,
I mean, that's the least shocking thing of all time.
Right. But still, like people just don't think of power when you see Ichiro, but when he wanted to, dude, he put a charge in one.
He might have been one of the purest 5-tool players you'll ever see.
Yeah, absolutely. But
yeah, I mean, he was. I mean, he's obviously on there. And then Randy Johnson, number 4, was there for in 9 years, I think it was, 89 to 98. I mean, it's just. I mean, the numbers are the numbers. He had 19 shutouts with the Mariners. 19. The next best in team history is King Felix, who's got 11. Who, I mean, is almost like has a right to be pissed to not be on the list. But like, who do you take off to put on King Felix?
Right.
No one.
Like, I guess
Nobody.
Randy, but like, you can't really take Randy Johnson off of that.
No.
For what he did in the 90s there with them.
Right.
So, I mean, that was a pretty easy one. And then the 5th honorable mention, if I have to, which was kind of a joke when I was writing it down. And then I'm like, actually, it's not really a joke anymore. Jay Buhner, Dude,
Oh, yeah,
Jay
absolutely.
Buhner played there for 12 years, okay?
Yeah.
And I kind of thought about it more as like a joke, and then I looked it up, okay? Jay Buhner was there when they were terrible in 1988.
Yep.
Through right field play, was the starting right fielder for 12 years through 2000. He ranks 4th in games played with 1,440, 4th in hits with 1,255, 3rd in home runs in 307, and drew 800 walks, won a Gold Glove in 1996. So, like, nothing really to sneeze at all when it comes to Jay Buhner. So I was like, started as a joke, but like, guy had a pretty good 12-year run there at Seattle.
I was actually going to make that comment. One of my favorite Mariners in that whole time frame was Jay Buhner in right field. That guy, I remember him falling into the bullpen at Fenway numerous times, making catches. I remember him going up against the wall in the Kingdome. He'd hit these just big home runs and at big points in the game. And he was that one guy who just, like, you'd almost forget about him. Then he'd remind you he was still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Came from the Yankees, man. It was started as a joke, but it's like Jay Buhner, pretty good Mariner
Legit.
career.
Absolutely. All right, so let's spin the wheel. We're on to the NL East next week. So I will be back to one team. Sean will get 2, and Harrison will get 2. So Harrison this first spin will be for you, Harrison.
Yay.
Just for the record, if I don't get the Mets, I get the Mets.
The Nats. I'm including the Expos and every other organization they've been in that.
That's fine.
Go for it.
I need all 3 of them to find anybody. All right, for Sean. Marlins. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Sean's going to get the Mets. Perfect.
Damn right he is.
All right, Nick.
I'm going to get the Marlins, my one team here.
Come on, keep going.
Get going.
Oh.
Right. I'll take the
fill. All right, here's my second team.
I swear to God, if I get Mets and Braves, if I make out like a bandit, oh, damn it.
Yes, I got Braves.
All right.
And gee, who's Sean going to get?
It's like the Marlins. All right, Mets and Marlins. R.I.P. and peace, Jose Fernandez.
The Marlins actually, that one shouldn't be too bad, right? I mean,
no,
they've had some success.
Yeah. All right, so that'll be NL East next week.
Cool. Nats and Braves.
All right, so we are now into the rounding third segment of our podcast here, where we did the best no doubt home run celebration. Before we go on, I will read from viewers. Morgan Sawyer, his favorite, he's from the SOS podcast. His favorite player of all time is Barry Bonds, and I mean, when that guy never hit a cheap home run, and he would hit it, and he would just sit there and stare at it. I mean, like, nothing flashy, nothing, anything, but just bam, just do it. And then Doug said Manny Ramirez, and I mean, this one with the hands above his head, I mean, walk off bottom of the ninth, it's ridiculous.
Left field, and the Red Sox are winners.
This one got a lot of votes, as it should.
Yeah, absolutely.
Manny Ramirez with an absolute rocket into the Boston ninth, and the Red Sox lead the series 2-0.
Like, so good.
The at-bat the Red Sox had looked for all night to make them pay
That
for
was such a
walking
big hit.
Poppy, and on the 4th time, Ramirez delivers.
And I love how dirty his helmet was.
Right?
The pig pen helmet.
No doubter. As soon as left the bat,
By about
you knew
by
it was
about
gone,
you
putting
couldn't read the
Red
logo
Sox
anymore.
up
Dude, that's a
2-0.
pistol.
That ball was pistol.
Dude,
It's
Coco
almost 1
Blitz.
o'clock in the morning in Boston, and nobody's left. As Manny Ramirez sent one completely out of Fenway over the monster seats.
Everybody knows it. That's one of those
Of one of the
beautiful
greatest
no-doubters.
closers in the game.
Well, here's the guy in Rodriguez who has one of the best curveballs in the game.
Yeah, so I mean, Manny,
That
that's
ball was
such a great one.
pissed on.
And then obviously, 2 people said this. Chad Perrault, Scott Bonjour, both, doubled up on Joey Bats. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that Joey Bats bat flip. I actually had a shirt that said Merry Flippin' Christmas, and it had Joey Bats with a bat flip on it. I mean, he paid for it dearly with a punch from Ruben Door the next time they met. But, I mean, totally worth it, dude. I mean, that wasn't even a flip, dude. That ended up in, like, the 3rd row of bleachers, dude. He just chucked that thing.
Yeah, so I'm gonna might as well play the clip in case there's anybody that hasn't seen it. If you haven't seen it, I'm not sure where you've been, but this one's just fun. And that place was fucking nuts.
You can only flirt with fire for so long, and it's gonna burn you. No doubt about it.
I feel like that was like the OG bat flip. Like bat flipping didn't become a thing until after this.
Oh yeah, right.
Well, no, see, yeah, that like started it.
Yeah.
But like that's when, but that's when the whole thing blew up, because then it's like you had like people talking about like respect for the game and pitchers being like,
Oh,
if
yeah.
you hit it, just run, right? But then like I was always team bat, because it's like, all right, well, you strike me out and you're gonna like fist pump down my dick like on the way to the dugout. You know what I mean? Like, what's the difference?
Dude, the best one
like
was,
you got literal guys shooting bows and arrow from the dugout every time they strike you out. But like, I'm gonna I'm gonna offend your sensibilities about the old school game of baseball by flipping my bat. Like, get out of here.
Dude, I love it. This year, Jazz Chisholm for the Marlins hits a home run, and then he does the Euro step into home and lays it up. And then Trevor Rogers faces him the next game and strikes him out to end the inning, and Trevor Rogers off the mound does the Euro step. And Chisholm loved it. He like tipped his cap.
I have no problem with that.
Absolutely.
No problem.
So great.
If you're gonna give it out, you better be prepared to take some.
Absolutely, dude.
Oh, absolutely.
My favorite home run celebration right now is Edwin Encarnacion with a parrot.
Oh.
He just runs around the bases with a parrot.
No, come on, that's such garbage.
You've seen it though, right? I mean, it's like so ridiculous.
Of course.
But like, I mean, there's better ones. Don't get me wrong, but like, I just think that one's like just ridiculous. Like, just holding up his
I think my favorite one of all time, just because of just how absolutely ridiculous it was when Bartolo went deep in San Diego and then took like 8 years to get around the bases.
Yeah.
Like 8 years. He took forever to get around the bases.
Yeah.
Oh, why'd you pick a Red Sox one too?
This one.
I know.
Deep to left field.
This guy hit bombs.
Yes, we did.
Upper deck home run for Encarnacion.
It's just so ridiculous. It's just, yeah. It's a unique way to do it.
Yeah, I do like the stutter step that Tatis does at third. Like that one's kind of cool.
There's about 2 or 3 things about Tatis you could pick out. I love watching the guy play. I mean, I think he's electric.
I love him.
Absolutely electric.
Yeah.
So here's my favorite of all time.
It's the Korean League.
On the knee. He got his elbow on.
Yeah, no, you gotta watch the next angle. It's gonna show the whole thing.
The soccer or baseball?
Oh, that's awesome.
Are you kidding me?
That's awesome.
Is that the guy that plays for the Twins now?
Yes. Yeah.
Was that
Astudillo?
Willians Astudillo or whatever?
That's the one.
Awesome.
Oh, I need him to do that in Major League Baseball and then wear one through the ear hole next time.
Right.
Yeah, that's my favorite. And then the all-time classic for me was Griffey. Like just the way he would do
Griffey,
it.
Look at it, and it was out and over the plate.
He would hit it, and then he was like, "Yep, I'm just gonna keep going." Like it
You
was all
you-
one
you saw
fluid
the
motion.
drop-
How about
the
the
dropping
action
of the
of
bat.
Carrera?
The swagger
Did he-
that it was one
What
fluid
was
motion.
gone?
He just kept moving.
Wow.
Like I always loved how he came out of the box when he hit a no doubter.
I mean, the Sammy
Jim
Sosa
Edmonds had a
hop.
couple of those too.
Yeah.
I like Jim Edmonds. Like Jim Edmonds had like that Griffey thing where it would be like one fluid motion, then he'd like snap the bat down. Like Edmonds had a few of those.
The helicopter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the Fred McGriff finish. McGriff would finish with the
Oh, the friggin' helicopter.
yeah, and then
The crime dog.
like I just said, the Sammy Sosa hop when he was going on that
Yeah.
Jason McGuire. He'd hit it and he'd do that little shuffle out of the box. I mean, not
Yeah,
the best,
a little-
but I mean, it was during that time, dude. Everyone was like rooting for him to pass McGuire. Like it was such an exciting chase, but.
And then I loved McGuire too because McGuire would have that high finish and he would just hold it, and then he'd like start walking.
Yeah. There's some great ones. But. All right, so we will throw out our rounding third question probably next Tuesday, next Wednesday. But we are now going to go on to heading home, where this was also another viewer suggestion by Ken Sawyer.
And a really good one. This was awesome.
This is a great one because honestly, like we're all too young to know who this guy is. And if our viewers do not know who this guy is, you need to go and look up these guys' statistics. Now, he's a reliever. Mike Marshall, 74 season. Was it the best ever? Dude, these are the stats right off top here. He was 15-12 with a 2.4 ERA. 106 games he appeared in, 21 saves, 208 and a third innings pitched. To put that in perspective, Shohei Ohtani didn't even throw that many innings this year. And he was a starter. 143 Ks, 56 walks, 857 batters faced, a 1.18 whip, and he was the first reliever to win the Cy Young Award. So, like, I mean, Harrison had all the stats. I had them written down. Like, great. Like, thanks. Anyway.
Hey, no problem. I'm here for you, Nick.
It's all good. But so Ken's question was, is this the best ever? He wants to hear us like give a case for anybody else that might have had a better season than this. And
just to put the number of batters faced, Nick, into perspective, right? I was a little later. So you said he faced 800 and how many batters in that season?
857.
857 in one season. Jonathan Papelbon pitched 4 years in Philadelphia, and he faced 950 batters total in those 4 years. In those 4 years, he faced 950 batters, and this guy faced 850 whatever in one season. Like, that is insane.
What amazes me is he appeared 106 times, but he finished 83 games. He was the last guy out there 83 times, which means he'd come in like the fifth or sixth inning, and then they would just be like, okay, the rest of the game's yours. And he'd finish it.
I actually did a little bit of reading on him, like behind the scenes, and like this guy was a health nut. This guy was like one of the first to like really bring kinesiology into baseball and like really studied how to take care of your body and how to rest. And in 1974, dude, that you're still dragging butts at the end of the dugout. You know what I mean? Like, I'm serious. You know, like this.
You're totally right.
This was the first guy that is like what was taking care of himself, and I mean, as it showed, dude, 106 games and 208 innings is obscene. Like I can't, and I came up with one relief pitcher that might, I mean, possibly two people that might come up, like, compare, but still nothing. But, like, Bruce Sutter in 1977 was 7-3 with a 1.3 ERA in 107 and a third innings pitched. Only gave up 69 hits, struck out 130, and had a .8 whip. I mean, that's insane. But, like, just the sheer volume that Marshall pitched in 74 is mind-blowing. Like, I can't necessarily say Sutter had a better season. Was he dominant for that short a time? But, I mean, he pitched 101 innings less. I don't know. Like, I can't really compare it.
It's hard to compare because when you look at Marshall's numbers, they actually compare better to a starter. You know, he at 208 innings pitched. I mean, those are starting pitcher numbers. Your typical back end reliever goes between 80 and 100 innings a year.
Maybe
they don't do 200. So what you got out of him was you got a guy who could come in and not just give you a great eighth or a great ninth. He'd give you a great sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth. And you know, basically, he became the second half of the game. So your starter goes 5, 6, 7 innings. Whatever was left, he picked up the rest, and he was doing that, you know, several times a week, carrying the back end of a couple of games. and doing it really effectively with an ERA of 2.42, and that's a lot of decisions for a reliever too. So he wasn't necessarily coming into games that were, they were ahead or behind, or it was already decided. He was coming into games that mattered, and he was actually taking a lot of decisions.
Dude, look at the year before. 92 games and 73 finished.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me?
He was fourth in Cy Young voting in 72, second in 73, first in 74.
God,
he got MVP votes in all 3 of those years too, and he was a reliever.
Get out of here, dude. There's no way. Yeah, there's no way that you can compete with that as a reliever. That's like me I'm starting the game. I get shelled in the first inning, and they bring in Marshall for inning 2 when he finishes the game 83 times. It's like...
Yeah. So the one season that jumped out to me as somewhat comparable would be Dan Quisenberry in 83. So Quisenberry in 83, he came into 69 games, finished 62 of them, so not as many, but close. 45 saves, a 1.94 ERA, 139 innings pitched. Faced 536 batters, so still again not as many. But a 0.9 WHIP, all-star, second in the Cy Young, sixth in the MVP. So better ERA, fewer innings, fewer appearances, fewer batters faced, but overall, like, more dominating statistics in terms of when he was in the game. He was more dominant. But, and this is considered one of the best relief seasons ever, is Quisenberry. Another season considered one of the best ever was 2003 Eric Gagne.
Yeah.
And here's 2003 Eric Gagne. So 77 appearances, 67 games he finished, 55 saves, a 1.2 ERA, only threw 82 innings and faced 300 batters. But he struck out 137 of the 300 batters he faced. Only gave up 12 runs in 82 innings. Won the Cy Young that year, was in the All-Star game, and got MVP votes. So, I mean, those Quisenberry and Gagne are considered the 2 most dominant reliever seasons ever. And while their statistics may be more dominant, more exciting in terms of what they produced, it'd be argued they are more valuable than a guy like Marshall, who gave you 200 innings, 15 wins, and some saves, and probably kept the rest of the bullpen fresh too, by carrying so many innings on himself.
I don't have this, but where did the Dodgers finish that year? I mean, if he kept them in the race for doing that, like, I can't even imagine. You know what I mean?
Also, those are Gagne stats.
1974 NL West standings. Oh, right, because there's only 2 divisions, right?
Yeah, the 1974 Dodgers finished first in the NL West. They went 102 and 60. They lost the World Series in 5 games to Oakland.
Goodness gracious! And he was a big part of that, or might have even been the sole part of that. That's like old time guy numbers. That's like 1900.
I mean, it's hard with with the numbers that guy put up for innings, batters. I mean, to keep a 2-point-something ERA too. But I mean, like 1992 Dennis Eckersley, when he won the Cy Young, the dude had 51 saves. He was 7-1. He had a 1.90 ERA. His K to walk ratio in 80 innings was 93 Ks to 11 walks. And this guy was 37 years old doing that.
Yeah. You know what's amazing? So check this out. So you check out some of the advanced stats on Marshall. In 74, he was only a 3.1 WAR. He wasn't in the top 5 players on his team. But he was a Cy Young winner and All-Star, third in the MVP voting with those numbers.
How is that even possible?
3.1 WAR. His entire career WAR. He's an 18.2 career WAR.
Wow.
Like you talk about not having your value reflected in the advanced stats. I mean, what he probably meant to that bullpen and that team versus what the statistics said it's just not the same. Can't be.
There's no way you win. What was it? 106, 110 games. How many did they win that year?
Like hundreds.
No. 102 and 60.
Yeah, there's no way he only had a 3.1 WAR with the amount of pitches he pitching or the amount of. Yeah, no. He threw 210 innings for crying out loud. There's no way that WAR statistic is right.
That's crazy. It clearly doesn't reflect it. So it clearly doesn't pick up what he delivers, just purely on statistics. But that is fascinating. That it does. The advanced metrics don't really like his season.
Apparently, I'm on a really big Dennis Eckersley kick because this is his 1990 season. Okay, 1990. This guy appeared in 63 games, only threw 73 innings. Right, so he was what he was. He was a 1-inning guy, but he was 4-2. He had a 0.61 ERA and he had 48 saves.
Wow.
A 0.61 ERA.
I was going to say, what, you give up
with
one
only
run?
Throwing. Well, that's what I'm saying, and that's the crazy part is he didn't throw a ton of innings, and we all know how ERA works, right? You have one bad outing and you throw so few innings, that's going to skyrocket your ERA.
Yeah,
this guy had a 0.6.
That's nuts. That's not even right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, there's been quite a few great seasons by relievers, no doubt about that. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I just you're right. Like the amount of domination by different relievers has been insane, but I think just overall, like his was the most shocking. You know what I mean? Like,
I would probably give you that.
I mean, just the numbers alone, I'm like, what? Like,
he wasn't a reliever. He was the second starter.
Right.
Like, that's what he did for them.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I mean, between 2002 and 2003 alone, now this is combining of two seasons, but it just goes to show you the dominance in such short period. Like Eric Gagne, I know you mentioned him earlier, Harrison, right? In 2002, he had 77 games, 82 innings, 1.97 ERA, and 52 saves. That was in 2002. Follows it up in 2003 with 77 more games, 82 more innings, 1.2 ERA, and 55 more saves. This guy had 107 saves in 2 years.
Didn't he have 86 consecutive or something like that? He had like 80-something consecutive saves.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
without being blown. It was. I mean, we talk about dominant. I mean, that's dominant. That's what dominant is.
Right. Yeah.
Insane.
When Gagne came out, the game was over. Like everybody knew it.
Over.
Yeah.
And then he came to Boston, and it was just an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
And then he was over. The game wasn't. He was.
Yeah.
Well, the game was over, just in the wrong way. Like he came in, it was just guaranteed walk home runs. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Oh, so bad.
Man. So Ken, thanks for putting us onto that because that was
a good one.
That was amazing, man. I loved reading about him and that season. I had no clue. As I like to consider myself a diehard baseball fan, and I had no clue about that guy. And man, that was incredible. So thank you very much.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Very, very cool.
So guys, keep those suggestions coming. If there's something you want us to research or talk about or debate, whatever, like throw it on there. Like we're looking for stuff now. Like I said, with the lockout happening or nothing happening with a lockout, like we're looking to fill that, and I think that's a great spot for us to do that. So keep them coming.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So thanks for watching, and hope to see you guys in the comments this whole show. But please subscribe, share our page, and we will see you guys next week.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.